Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff, and you're tuning into a thing that I don't do very often, and that is unboxing, not really much unboxing, but more reviews of Forge World products. Now, if you don't know, I love Necromunda. It's growing on me exponentially, and if you haven't seen it, I did trade a lot of models off to my buddy Greg at Cranky Old Gamer, and he had a bunch of Necromunda stuff specifically for Goliath. But in that set, there was these 2 packs, which are the Goliath weapon sets from Forge World. Now, why do I take the time to do this when I don't normally do it for any other thing? It's because, quite frankly, Forge World's expensive as hell. And so I like to do these reviews. I did one for the Stormcast heads to show people what they could look like, and this is going to be no different. I'm going to take it apart, go through the weapon options that are in here, show you some close-up pictures because they don't always do the best job advertising on their site, and then tell you, frankly, should you buy them? Because again, they are pricey, and I'm all about one of those people who's getting the most bang for your buck when it comes to your hobby. So we're going to go over now to the downward cam, crack these suckers open, and take a look. So now we're going to start off by looking at the set number 1. So what it tells you get is a power axe, 2-handed hammer, 2-handed axe. Okay, it says axe by itself, so I'm not quite sure what that means. 2 mauls, chainsword, hand flamer, heavy flamer. Oh my gosh, that's all the fire right there. Shotgun, bolt pistol, heavy bolter, which is a big one. We're going to come to that, and combi melta. So let's take a look here. Dump all the parts. First of all, here's what I'll say. I have purchased non-Forge World stuff before. Like, I think the joke is calling it Forgery World. There is something about this resin that is it's just nice. It just works so much better than any of the knockoffs that I've seen out there on the market. This, I'm assuming, is one of the mauls, because holy smokes, it's basically like a cog and a blade bolted together. I like that. Here's a whole bunch of arms, and they're all clearly labeled to know, which weapons they go with, which is awesome. Here's the other maul. I'm assuming that's going to be a heavy bolter for sure. The underslung thing, I love it. And I'm going to do some close-up pictures for you guys so you can get a sense of what these look like in person. Moving along, here is a bunch of random hands. It looks like something snapped off here. Maybe it's this one. Okay. Like I said, these were sitting in my buddy's garage for some time, so these could have shaken around during transport. Set that there. Here we have. This looks like a combi melta. It must be. Yeah, the melta's in the bottom. Bolter up top. All right, that's a great weapon to have. Here is an axe. This is a savage-looking weapon. What is this? So. Includes power axe, 2-handed hammer. Nope, that's not it. A chainsword, that's what that is. I've never seen a chainsword look quite like this. That is neat looking. Here's your big 2-handed hammer, but it does sit over the guy's shoulder, which will make some really cool looking poses. And what do we got here? This is going to be the heavy flamer. Here is the underslung flamer. Right, so yeah, this is the flamer, heavy flamer. They got here, oh my gosh, this weapon is amazing looking. This is a double barrel shotgun. He's definitely getting built, there's no question. I love it. And here is a power axe. Yep, so you have the axe, and then it goes to the power supply located on the wrist. A hand flamer and a bolt pistol. So that is everything in that set. These models are going to look dope. At the end of this video, I will actually build these things and show you how they look, because I'm excited to get, frankly, that shotgun needs to happen. That's my favorite looking thing. And so now we're going to transition. I'll put these over to the side here with set number 1. We're going to bust open set number 2. And I'll do the same thing. This one comes with a power axe, 2-handed hammer, 2-handed axe, maul, chainsword, hand flamer, melt-a-gun, bolter, 2 bolt pistols, heavy stubber, and combi flamer. Now notice, a lot of those things are the same. Particularly the melee weapons tend to be the exact same. There you get one less maul, which is like the saw blade bolted to a bunch of junk over there. But you get different ranged weapon options. So that's important to know. So if you're looking for melee builds, the difference between set 1 and 2 very minimal when it comes to melee weapons. Here you got the two-handed hammer. This looks like the bolter, right? Yeah, there's the bolter. What's cool is that Goliath has such a strength that they can hold it out outstretched. There's your power sword, hand flamer, or not power sword, chain sword and hand flamer. Here is another bolter, but this one is cool because he's actually like holding it like a gun instead of just being all macho and being a terrible shot. Here we have just a pair of arms with nothing attached to them. So one of the things that was interesting that was pointed out to me is specifically in box number 2, it's awesome that they have arms that, you know, the intent was have weapon in one hand and a bare arm. However, Goliath is such an expensive gang in terms of buying actual, you know, gangers for your force, that having a guy who's having nothing in his hands and just be a dude on the table is actually a great benefit. So having a guy who's holding nothing, this arm has brass knuckles, which doesn't represent a real weapon, but is just to make him look cool, is actually a net positive. It's good to have that guy who's just dirt cheap. These are, here we have a bolt pistol and the hand to a heavy weapon, which we'll get to in a sec. This is just generic arms meant to carry things. There's no hands attached. It's just like the upper arm and elbow. You have a bolt pistol and hand flamer. So lots of, what is it, 2 hand flamers in this one. I like it. Here we have our underslung melt-a-gun and the heavy stubber, which I'm sure goes with that one arm that had the mount to it. So heavy stubber, also an awesome gun in Necromunda. Here we have our power axe. Where are you? This looks like a 2-handed axe. Yep, that's that right there. Here we have a blank arm that's not really holding much of anything. Okay, so it's a 3rd free arm, basically. Must go with that set. And here we have a maul and a standard axe. So between these 2 sets, standout weapons. If you're going melee, it becomes very simple, right? There's just there's a lot of overlap, so there's not a lot of distinction. Is kind of what I'm trying to say. That's very interesting. So melee stuff, you're gonna get pretty much the same options, right? The 2-handed hammer in one. You get 2-handed hammers in both. You get 2-handed axes in both. You get a power axe. You get a maul. And, you know, you can make choices like that. But when it comes to range stuff, the first set, set number 1, has an emphasis on bolters. So you have a bolt pistol, heavy bolter, and a combi melta, which is of course a bolter with a melta attached to it. Over here, we get the combi flamer. So it's a bolt gun with a flamer attached. You get 2 hand flamers, a melta gun, you know, all these kinds of things. So it really depends on what kind you're looking for. For me, if I was going to buy these offline, I lean towards set number 1 because the shotgun is fantastic. Not just aesthetically, but in the game, it's a great weapon. I like it. And that's not everyone's jam. You still get the same weapons, and the heavy bolter is baller. I'm going to go ahead and get these guys built, just with a few of the options. I'm not necessarily going to build every single one of them, but I'll give you a glimpse of what these things can look like when they are fully assembled. So here's a few shots of the final product. I just built 5 with some of the weapon options I was most excited about. Got a heavy stubber, the heavy bolter, 2 guys with bolters, because those are like my favorite weapon on the models this size, as well as the shotgun guy. Now, you might notice with the shotgun guy, as I get to that picture, his shoulders needed to be green stuffed just a smidge. Basically, I couldn't get it to line up quite right, and I'm not sure if that's because part of the sprue was there. I didn't see anything, but they just didn't line up. However, every single other one of these dudes, it lined up seamlessly, and they actually look really fantastic. So I'm very excited to start throwing some paint on these dudes and add them to my Goliath gang. So there it is, friends, my thoughts on the Goliath weapon, sprues, and that kind of stuff. I hope it was useful for you in informing your purchases on your Necromunda gang. Now, as far as like the actual weapons themselves, they're not necessary. You know, I mean, they're not. It's totally an accessory thing. As far as playing effectively, bolters are really good in Necromunda. I would actually say that bolters are as scary as they're supposed to be. Like if you read the the lore behind some of the weapons of the Imperium, bolters are supposed to be this incredibly powerful weapon, but then when you play 40k, they're just kind of like the standard. They don't feel scary, whereas in Necromunda they actually are. They're very terrifying weapons, and so getting some for your Goliath guys is really useful for you. And then as far as the melee weapons, they just have different variations and aesthetics than some of the stuff that comes in the box, with a lot of cosmetic changes. However, in a game like Necromunda where you're only using 8 to 15 models, it helps to really break up how they look. Having guys with basic hand weapons from the box set mixed with the mauls and that kind of thing that came in here really does add a lot of life to the various sculpts and that kind of stuff, and add a lot of flavor. So that stuff is very important if you are willing to pick one gang and really invest heavily into it. And so that's kind of my plan here with the Goliaths. I already own a ton of Escher stuff, so I'll probably be picking up sets for them too when Games Workshop reopens for business. And I'm excited to do that. And I'll probably do the same thing if this video is helpful to people for Escher as well. So let me know in the comments below what weapons you're excited about, which ones you like for fun/effectiveness. Doesn't have to be the same. Tell me your thoughts, and I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, and happy wargaming.